The bully slapped a quiet black boy in a diner, not knowing his father was the boss of the Mafia. The diner hummed with soft jazz and clinking plates when Malik Thompson turned a page in his worn notebook. He sat alone in a corner booth, the faint glow of neon lights tracing the edge of his calm face. Across the room, laughter erupted, sharp, mocking, deliberate.
Jason Mendez.
He always found a way to be noticed. Jason strolled closer, flanked by two friends, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Look who's still playing the quiet genius," he sneered, knocking Malik's notebook off the table. A few people looked away, pretending not to see. Malik's hand hovered in the air for a second, then calmly picked up the pages. That calm irritated Jason. He leaned in, eyes burning with arrogance. "Say something, Thompson. Or are you scared?" The slap came fast, a sharp crack that silenced the diner. Cups froze mid-air. A waitress stopped mid-step. Malik's cheek turned slightly, his eyes steady, unreadable. He didn't flinch, didn't raise his voice. He just met Jason's stare and said almost softly, "You shouldn't have done that." The words hung in the air like a quiet storm waiting to break. The next morning, sunlight poured through the tall windows of Lincoln High, cutting long lines across the polished hallway floor. Malik walked through them quietly, his backpack hanging from one shoulder, his face unreadable. Whispers followed him like a shadow. Everyone had heard about what happened at the diner. Some said he provoked Jason, others said he cried. But no one had seen Malik lose control, and that made people uneasy. Jason Mendez was waiting by the lockers, leaning back with his usual smirk. His laughter bounced off the metal doors as he nudged his friends. "Look who showed up." "Brave of you, Thompson," he said. When Malik passed, Jason stuck his foot out. The trip was small, but enough to send Malik's books tumbling across the floor. A few students laughed. Malik crouched, picking up each page carefully. Rebecca Lang, the history teacher, stood at the corner pretending to check her phone. She saw everything but said nothing. Everyone knew why. Jason's father, Daniel Ruiz, was one of the school's biggest donors, the kind of man who could decide which programs stayed or vanished. Malik's best friend, Andre Bennett, appeared beside him, helping gather the fallen papers. "Why do you let him get away with it, man?" he whispered. "You have proof you could report him." Malik straightened up, eyes calm as ever. "My father taught me to stay quiet, until it is time not to." Andre frowned, unsure whether Malik was serious or just tired of fighting. But Malik's expression was steady, almost too composed for a 12-year-old. Lunch hour brought more of the same. Jason stole Malik's tray and dumped his food into the trash. "Still not going to say anything?" he mocked. Malik just looked at him once, not angry, not afraid, and walked away. The silence felt heavier than any insult. Later, in the quiet corner of the library, Malik opened his notebook. Between math notes and history sketches were pages filled with small handwriting, dates, times, incidents. He pulled out a cheap phone, pressed record, and whispered, "October 12th, cafeteria, 12:42 p.m., Jason Mendez. Verbal aggression, physical intimidation, witnesses, Andre Bennett." Mrs. Lang, his voice was steady, systematic. He began taking pictures of bruises on his arms, saving messages, tracking every insult like a scientist, documenting an experiment. Not one word of anger, not one sign of revenge, only precision. By the end of the week, Malik's folder was full. Screenshots, notes, audio recordings. To everyone else, it looked like quiet endurance. But beneath that calm exterior, something deliberate was taking shape. When Jason shoved him in the hallway the next day, Malik looked at him for a moment longer than usual. There was no fear in his eyes, just the faintest hint of awareness, as if he already knew how this story would end. And Jason, for the first time, felt something he never expected, a flicker of unease. By Friday, the whispers had turned into background noise. Jason Mendez made sure of it. His laughter echoed down the locker room walls, sharp and cruel. Malik stood at his locker, folding his uniform shirt with quiet precision while Jason and his friends circled behind him. "Nice shirt, Thompson. Your dad still buying from the thrift store?" Jason's voice carried over the sound of slamming lockers. Malik did not look up. He placed his folded shirt into his gym bag and closed the zipper. Jason shoved his shoulder hard. "I am talking to you." Malik's body tilted slightly from the force but stayed balanced. His silence felt heavier than words. It made Jason angrier. Another shove came, then a laugh from the group. "Come on, man, he is like a robot," one of them said. Jason leaned in close enough for Malik to feel his breath. "Maybe your old man taught you how to run, not how to fight." Andre Bennett stood by the benches, eyes darting between them, guilt written all over his face. He wanted to intervene but did not move. Malik caught his gaze for a split second, not pleading, just observing. Then he walked away without a word. Jason's laughter followed him out the door. That evening, Malik entered his house quietly. The home smelled of lemon polish and old wood. Preston Wells was at the dining table, reading reports on his tablet, glasses perched on his nose. He looked up as his son passed by. "Rough day?" Malik hesitated. "Just school." Preston's gaze dropped to a faint bruise on his son's arm. He stood up, walked closer, and spoke gently. "Who did this?" "It is nothing," Malik said quickly, pulling down his sleeve. Preston's voice stayed calm, but his eyes sharpened. Nothing does not leave marks like that. For a moment, neither spoke. The air was still, filled with a tension that felt both protective and dangerous. Preston exhaled slowly, walked to the window, and stared outside before speaking again. "When I was your age, I thought fighting back made you strong. I built an empire on that belief. But every bruise I gave someone else came back to me in another form." Malik stood silently listening. Preston turned, his face half lit by the lamp. "Violence is easy, Malik. Anyone can pull a trigger or throw a punch. But control—" He paused, tapping his chest softly. "Control is the hardest thing in the world." He sat back down, eyes steady on his son. "You can destroy a man with a gun, but you can own him with the truth." Malik absorbed the words, the weight of them pressing against everything he had been holding inside. His father was not asking him to forgive. He was teaching him to think. Preston leaned forward slightly. "Whatever is happening at that school, do not let them make you smaller. You do not need to fight like them. You just need to be smarter." Malik nodded slowly. "I understand." But something behind his calm eyes shifted. A quiet determination replacing the stillness. He excused himself and went upstairs. In his room, the blinds were half open, the moon casting thin stripes of light across his desk. Malik turned on his computer and opened a new folder. The cursor blinked, waiting. He typed the words carefully, letter by letter. Proof of power. He opened his notebook beside the keyboard and began scanning each page. Evidence, dates, photos, audio clips. Every insult, every bruise, every silence that the adults ignored. As the files filled the screen, his face remained calm, but his eyes reflected something colder. Not vengeance, but purpose. Downstairs, Preston watched the ceiling as if he could sense what his son was doing. He did not stop him. Some lessons he knew had to be learned through fire. Weeks passed. The bruises on Malik's arm had faded, but the whispers had not. Jason Mendez found new ways to humiliate him. This time not with punches, but with lies. It happened during the school assembly. The gym was full of students, banners hanging high, teachers seated in front. It was presentation day for the science project. Malik's work, a clean, detailed study on renewable energy, was supposed to be presented next. But before his name was called, Jason walked confidently to the stage holding a familiar project board. Malik froze. The same design, the same graphs, even the same spelling mistake on the bottom corner. Jason was smiling as he began to speak. "This project," Jason said proudly into the microphone, "shows how solar grids can be used to power small towns." The students clapped. Some looked impressed. Only a few noticed Malik sitting in the back row, his jaw tight but expression calm. When the principal, Rebecca Lang, praised Jason for his innovation, Malik did not move. He just watched, quiet, unblinking. Andre Bennett shifted uncomfortably beside him, whispering, "Man, that's your project." Malik simply replied, "I know." He stayed silent for the rest of the day. But that night, when the house grew quiet and the sky outside turned dark, Malik picked up his phone and called his father. The call connected after one ring. Preston's voice came through, steady and calm. "Are you ready to make them see?" Malik did not speak right away. He just nodded, even though his father could not see him. "Yes," he finally said. "I am ready." Preston's voice carried a quiet power. "Then it is time." The next morning, Malik began working. He spent hours on his computer, searching, collecting, organizing. Preston reached out to a few of his old contacts. men who had left the dark world behind and now worked in legal investigation. They helped Malik gather surveillance footage from the diner where Jason and his friends often hung out. They found timestamps, messages, and even an old-school record showing how Jason had cheated before. Every night, Malik built his case like a lawyer preparing for trial. He sorted videos, labeled documents, and wrote notes with calm precision. He started interviewing other students, those who had been bullied or silenced. He met them quietly after school, sometimes in the library, sometimes near the back field. He promised them safety, promised their names would be hidden. One girl admitted that Jason used to threaten her about her grades. Another said he stole money from her locker. And then, one evening, Andre finally came to Malik's house. His hands were shaking. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Jason, he blackmailed me once. He said he would leak my photos if I didn't help him cheat." Malik listened without judgment. "Thank you," he said softly. Andre looked at him with guilt. "Why are you helping people like me after everything?" Malik smiled faintly. "Because someone has to stop him the right way." Slowly, the plan began to take shape. Malik built a presentation, not for class, but for justice. He combined the evidence, layered it with voices, clips, and screenshots. He named the file, The Truth About Jason Mendez. The night before the big reveal, Malik sat by his window, the city lights glowing in the distance. His father knocked once and entered quietly. Preston watched him for a long moment before speaking. "You have done a lot for this," Preston said. Malik nodded, eyes still on the screen. "Dad, I am not doing this for revenge." Preston raised an eyebrow. "Then why?" Malik turned to face him. "I am doing this for respect. For everyone he made feel small." For a few seconds, neither spoke. The silence felt heavy but peaceful. Preston placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "Then you have already won, Malik, because respect is something no one can steal." Malik smiled, calm, steady, and sure. Outside, thunder rolled softly in the distance. It was the sound of something about to change. The school auditorium was brighter than usual that morning. Blue banners hung from the walls, Anti-Bullying Week. Teachers smiled, cameras clicked, and the air smelled of fresh paint and false peace. Rebecca Lang stood on stage with her polite smile, holding a microphone. "Today," she said proudly, "we celebrate kindness, respect, and unity among students." Her voice echoed through the hall. And who better to share a few words than someone who has shown great leadership, Jason Mendez. Applause filled the room as Jason walked up to the stage. His suit jacket was sharp, his smile rehearsed. He looked around the hall, eyes shining with fake confidence. "Thank you, Ms. Lang," he said, his tone dripping with pride. "You know, our school is like a family. We lift each other up, we care, we—" From the back row, Malik Thompson watched quietly. His expression did not change, but his heart beat slowly, steady, like a drum that knew when to strike. Jason continued, "We make sure no one feels left behind." A few students exchanged glances. Some who knew the truth shifted in their seats, uncomfortable. Malik finally stood. His chair made a soft scrape against the floor. Every head turned toward him. He walked calmly down the aisle until he stood near the stage. "Ms. Lang," he said in an even tone. "May I show something?" Rebecca looked surprised. "Malik, this is not really— It will only take a few minutes," he said quietly. His calmness was unnerving. Something in his eyes made her hesitate. After a long pause, she nodded. "All right, but make it brief." Malik climbed the small steps to the stage. He plugged in a USB drive to the laptop connected to the projector. The lights dimmed, the room fell silent. The first image appeared on the big screen. A diner, the one where everything began. Jason's laughter filled the air in the recording, followed by a sharp sound. The slap. The room froze. Gasps echoed through the audience. The video replayed the moment in slow motion. Jason's smirk, Malik's calm eyes, the silence that followed. Then another clip. The school hallway. Jason tripping Malik, stealing his lunch, laughing with his friends. Malik's quiet face as he picked up his books. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Teachers looked confused, shocked. More footage followed. Screenshots of text messages, Jason calling Malik names, mocking his family. Voice recordings of laughter. Malik's voice began to narrate, steady and clear. "This is not just about me," he said over the images. "It is about every student who stayed silent because they thought no one cared. It is about the ones who cried in bathrooms, the ones who gave up on speaking, because no one listened. Rebecca Lang lowered her head. Her hands trembled slightly on the microphone. Jason took a step forward, panicking. "Turn it off," he shouted. "He is lying!" But the next slide silenced him completely. On screen appeared an email from Daniel Ruiz, Jason's father, sent to Principal Lang. The message read, "Make sure my son's record stays clean. You know how much we've donated." The entire auditorium erupted. Gasps, shouts, murmurs filled the air. Teachers stood frozen. Students pulled out their phones, recording everything. Jason's face turned pale. "This is fake!" he yelled again, but no one believed him anymore. In the middle of the chaos, Malik's father quietly walked into the back of the auditorium. Preston Wells stood with his hands in his pockets, watching his son in silence. There was no smile on his face, only pride. Malik's voice continued, calm but cutting through the noise. "You said this school was a family, Jason. Families protect the weak. They do not destroy them." Jason tried to speak, but words would not come out. He looked toward his father, who stood up from the front row, red with anger and shame. Malik clicked to the final slide, a single sentence written across a black screen. "Power is not in your fists. It is in what you can prove." Silence fell like a wave over the hall. For a moment, no one moved. Then one student began to clap. Another joined. Soon the entire auditorium was on its feet, applauding, cheering, shouting Malik's name. Jason lowered his head, his arrogance gone, replaced by something he had never known before. Fear. Rebecca Lang stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Malik," she whispered into the microphone, "I am sorry." "We all are." Malik turned to her, his voice calm. "Do not be sorry for me. Be better for them." He gestured toward the crowd, the students who had suffered silently for years. Preston watched from the back, eyes shining with quiet satisfaction. His son had done what he once could not. He had fought with truth, not violence. As the applause filled the room, Malik looked around one last time. For the first time, people were seeing him. Not as a victim, but as someone who turned pain into purpose. When he walked off the stage, the air felt lighter, cleaner. Justice did not roar that day. It spoke softly through the truth. And in that silence, everyone finally listened. The next morning, the school felt different. The same hallways that once echoed with laughter at someone's pain were now silent, heavy with realization. News of the assembly spread across the district like fire. Every student, every teacher, every parent had seen the truth. Jason Mendez and his father faced disciplinary action within days. The board demanded answers. Daniel Ruiz tried to defend himself, but the evidence was undeniable. By the end of the week, he resigned from the school board under public pressure. Jason was suspended indefinitely. His name, once carried with pride, now whispered in shame. For the first time, silence belonged to him. Malik did not celebrate. There was no smile of victory, no dance of revenge. That evening, he sat on the porch beside his father. The sky was painted gold and purple as the sun began to set. Preston leaned back in his chair, calm, eyes watching his son. Malik spoke softly. "I did not destroy him, Dad." Preston turned slightly, his voice steady. "No, you showed him what destruction really looks like." The two sat quietly, the hum of the night filling the air. It was not the silence of fear anymore. It was peace. 3 months later, the school was transformed. Posters about respect covered the walls. Students who were once afraid now spoke openly. Malik was elected student council president by a landslide. He stood on stage during the new assembly, wearing the same calm expression he had the day of his exposure. Only now, it carried strength. Rebecca Lang approached him after the event. Her voice trembled as she said, "I am truly sorry, Malik. You deserved better." Malik nodded gently. We all did. From the back of the auditorium, Jason stood quietly, watching. His once confident shoulders now slouched. He did not speak, did not approach, only watched as Malik shook hands with teachers and students. Malik glanced at him for a brief second, not with hate, but with quiet understanding. As he stepped off the stage, his thoughts echoed softly. People think silence is weakness, but silence is only dangerous when the wrong people own it. The camera of life pulled back. Malik walking through the school courtyard, sunlight on his face, peace finally restored. And for the first time, silence sounded like strength.